Welcome to GOS Media. I'm Josiah Kim. Let's pick up on James' recital of Charles Dickens' novel, A Christmas Carol. This 12 Days of Christmas extravaganza is our gift to you this Christmas season. Today will be episode 8 of A Christmas Carol.
By this time it was getting dark and snowing pretty heavily, and as Scrooge and the spirit went along the streets, the brightness of the roaring fires in the kitchens and parlors and all sorts of rooms was wonderful. Here the flickering blaze showed preparations for a cozy dinner with hot plates baking before the fire. It was a great surprise to Scrooge to hear a hearty laugh. A much greater surprise to recognize it as his own nephew's, and to find himself in a bright, gleaming room with spirits smiling by his side. Oh, if you could happen to know a man more blessed in a laugh than Scrooge's nephew, I should like to know him too. There is nothing in the world so irresistibly contagious as laughter and good humor. Scrooge's niece by marriage laughed as heartily as he, and their assembled friends, they roared out lustily. He said Christmas was a humbug, and I think he believed it too. Oh, more shame for him, Fred. He's a comical old fellow. That is the truth, and not so pleasant as he might be. However, his offence carries its own punishment, and I have nothing to say against him. Well, I'm sure he's very rich, Fred. At least you always tell me so. Well, what of that, my dear? His wealth is of no use to him. He doesn't do any good with it. He doesn't make himself comfortable with it. He hasn't the satisfaction of thinking that it'll ever benefit us. Oh, well, I have no patience with him. I have. I'm sorry for him. I couldn't be angry with him if I tried. Who suffers by his ill whims? Himself, always. Here he takes it into his head to dislike us, and he won't come and dine with us. Well, what's the consequence? He doesn't lose much of a dinner. Well, indeed, I think he loses a very good dinner. And everybody else at the party said the same, as they were competent judges, having just finished the meal. Well, I'm very glad to hear it, because I haven't great faith in these young housekeepers. What do you say, Topper? Well, do go on, Fred. He never finishes what he begins to say. He's such a ridiculous fellow. Scrooge's nephew revelled in another laugh. It was impossible to keep off, and his example was unanimously followed. Oh, well, I was only going to say that the consequence of his taking a dislike to us and not making merry with us is, as I think, that he loses some pleasant moments, which could do him no harm. I mean to give him the same chance every year, whether he likes it or not. For I pity him. He may rail at Christmas till he dies, but he can't help thinking better of it. I defy him. If he finds me going there in good temper year after year and saying, Uncle Scrooge, how are you? If it only puts him in the mind to leave his poor clerk £50, well, that's something. And I think I shook him yesterday. Now it was their turn to laugh at the notion of shaking Scrooge. He encouraged them in their merriment and passed the bottle joyously. So after tea, they had some music. They were a musical family, and they knew what they were about. And when they sung a glee or a catch, I can assure you, especially Topper, who could growl away in the bass like a good one. Scrooge's niece, she played well upon the harp, and played a simple little air which had been familiar to the child who fetched Scrooge from the boarding school. When the strain of music sounded, all the things that the ghost had shown him came upon his mind, and he softened more and more. They didn't devote the whole evening to music, and after a while they played at forfeits. There was first a game of blind man's buff, and I do no more believe that Topper was really blind than I believe that he had eyes in his boots. The way he went after that plump sister in the lace tucker was an outrage. Scrooge's niece, who was not part of blind man's buff, but was made comfortable in a snug corner where the ghost and Scrooge were close behind her. She joined in forfeits and at How, When, and where she beat her sisters hollow. There might have been 20 people, young and old, but they all played, and so did Scrooge. For wholly forgetting his invisible state, he sometimes would take out with his guests quite loud, and very often he would guess quite right too. The ghost was greatly pleased to find him in this mood, and he looked upon him with such favour that he begged like a little boy to be allowed to stay until the guests had departed. But the spirit said this could not be done. Here's a new game. 1 half an hour, spirit, only one. It's a game called Yes and No. One thinks of something, and the rest guess by questions. I'm thinking of a disagreeable, savage animal that growls and grunts sometimes, and talks sometimes, and lives in London, but isn't a show animal or a common beast. At every fresh question, his nephew burst into roars of laughter, and at last the plump sister cried out, "Oh, I found it! I found it! I know what it is, Fred! I know what it is! It's Ebenezer Scrooge, your uncle! No! Yes! It can't be!" It certainly was. He has given us plenty of merriment, I am sure, and it would be ungrateful not to drink to his health. Here is a glass of mulled wine, and I say, Uncle Scrooge, a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to the old man wherever he is. He wouldn't take it from me, but may he have it nevertheless. Uncle Scrooge! Uncle Scrooge had imperceptibly become so gay and so light of heart that he would have pledged the unconscious company in return, if the ghost had given him time. But the whole scene passed off in a breath of the last words that were spoken by his nephew, and he and the spirit were again upon their travels. Much they saw, and far they went, and many homes they visited, always with a happy end. The spirit stood behind sick beds, and they were cheerful. He stood by struggling men, and they were patient in their greater hope. By poverty, and it was rich. In almshouse, hospital, and jail, he left his blessings, and he taught Scrooge his precepts. It was a long night, if it were only a night. But Scrooge had his doubts, for the Christmas holidays appeared condensed into the space and time that they passed together. It was strange, too, that while Scrooge remained unaltered, the ghost grew older, clearly older. Scrooge noticed his hair was grey. Are spirits' lives so short? Oh, my life upon this globe is very brief. It ends tonight. Tonight, spirit? Tonight, at midnight. Hark, the time is drawing near. The chimes were ringing 11:15 at that moment. Forgive me if I'm not justified in what I ask, but I see something strange protruding from your skirts. Is that a foot? Or a claw? Oh, it might be a claw, for the flesh there is upon it. Look here. From the folding of its robe, it brought 2 children, wretched, abject, frightful, hideous, miserable. They knelt down at his feet and clung upon the outside of his garments. "Oh, man, look, look, look down here." They were a boy and a girl, yellow, meager, ragged, scowling, wolfish, where graceful youth should have filled their features. A stale and shriveled hand had pinched them into shreds. No change, no degradation, no perversion of humanity had monsters half so horrible and dread as these. Scrooge startled back, appalled. He tried to say they were fine children, but the words choked themselves. "Spirit, are they yours?" "They are man's. And they cling to me, appealing from their fathers. The boy's ignorance, and the girl is want. Beware them both, but most of all beware this boy, for on his brow I see that written which is doom, unless the writing is erased. Deny it. Slander those who tell it ye. Admit it for your factious purposes, and make it worse, and abide the end." "Well, have they no refuge? Have they no resource? Are there no prisons? Are there no workhouses?" The bell struck 12. Scrooge looked about him for the ghost, and he saw it not. As the last stroke ceased to vibrate, he remembered the prediction of old Jacob Marley, and lifting up his eyes, beheld a solemn phantom, draped and hooded, coming like a mist along the ground toward him.
If this is your first time reading or hearing the novel A Christmas Carol, let us know about it in the comments below. Be sure to give some love to James Winter for all his effort. If you've not done it yet, you better grab some merch. Christmas is coming and we're getting low on options for gifts for you to give. I'll see you tomorrow as we continue with our Christmas special. Thanks again for your support, and thanks again for watching. I've been your host, Josiah Kim.